So now I want to talk about tonight's subject, which is steering, right? What are the four most important parts of the car? The brakes, the steering, the brake lights, and seat belts. Somebody told me a couple of times ago, you should really make that one of the important things. So I have. I used to say the three most, but now it's the foremost. And the 3-point seat belts. There's no point in being in there in a lap belt. Keep yourself from getting thrown out with a 3-point. Anyway, steering's like really critical. So in the beginning of our discussion, we've got the Bishop box steering that was fitted to the TC. Crude. You don't, the joke is you don't steer a TC, you just aim it. The caster, which we talked about last session, the caster is kicked forward so much that the wheels stay straight. So as long as you tug it a little bit back and forth now and then, you can stay in the center of the lane. The car kind of steers itself. So the parts of the TC steering, one of them I had a picture of. Of course, I didn't label any of the pictures last night because it was getting late and I wanted to get it out. But is the shaft that comes, the arm that comes off the bottom of the steering box, and we'd taken a TC into the shop for a complete lubrication. Everything looked good. We did, changed all the oils. We did everything we were supposed to do. The truck came to take the car back home, back to the Detroit area, and I get a call from the wrecker who says, well, something in the steering broke, so he's going to bring it back to the shop. This is when he's unloading it at the customer's house in Detroit. And I'm thinking, oh, what do you guys put the chain, put the tight, put the straps around the steering instead of the suspension? No, this arm had fractured. It had fractured before, and someone had brazed it back up and then painted it black. How would we even know that was the case? Thank God it broke when the car wasn't moving. I did not have the time to put in a sector shaft, which broke on Jeff Powell. Jeff races his TC north of Chicago. So he's out on the track. He's racing. I don't know how fast they go on the track. Fast. It's what? It must be 70, 80 miles an hour out on the track, and there's turns and all kinds of stuff. And anyway, he comes around the corner, and all of a sudden, he no longer has forward motion. He'd run the gears off his uh, bevel pinion in the differential in the car. The car stopped moving. So he got it up on the trailer and took it home. And throughout the winter, he ordered up a new crown wheel and pinion, installed that, got it all done, put the car back out on the road, drove around the block at his house. And he said the steering kind of got wonky. And then all of a sudden, the steering wheel turned and didn't do anything with the front wheels. So this is his test drive after rebuilding the diff. He takes it apart in the sector shaft, which is a shaft with an arm on top of it and a peg in the end of the arm that goes into a worm gear. As the worm turns, the sector shaft turns and follows it. That had sheared off. Had he not lost his differential in turn three or whatever it was, he might have lost his steering at 70, 80 miles an hour on a racetrack. And he owes his life to the fact that his differential failed. Unbelievable. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff that goes wrong with the TC steering. Everything's available. I talked to Doug Pelton from the Frame Up in Phoenix, Arizona today, and I said, "Do you guys sell the worms that go on the steering shaft?" And he said, "Absolutely." And he's got a video up. He said, "If you want to entertain everybody, it's a fun video." And you can watch it, but I don't know enough about Zoom to put that in as a filler to show you how to weld the worm on the end of a TC steering shaft. But they are available. All the pieces are available, including bushings in the box. But it's a crude system. Alec Isogonis, along with the front suspension, uh, incorporated into the front end of the car rack and pinion about 1948 on the Y type. That's the mother. the mother of the TD. The father is absolutely the TC. But the rack and pinion steering started with the TD and didn't change much at all throughout the entire range right up through 1980. Sure, the rack changes and everything, but the idea in the parts, where the parts are, doesn't change. They're not interchangeable from 1980 to 1955 or something. But my gosh, it is such a wonderful, wonderful system. But stuff can and does go wrong. So on the earlier cars, the tie rod ends go bad over a period of time, and those are relatively easily changed. I've got a YouTube video up about how to load it and hit the steering arm with a hammer, great big hammer, kapow, and it pops apart. You can use what's called a pickle fork, but that will ruin the tie rod end. So if you're doing something like changing boots on the rack and pinion, you don't separate the tie rod end from the steering arm. You separate the tie rod from the tie rod end. There's an inner tie rod also. There's the tie rod end, but there's the inner tie rod joint. And that's where the steering arm comes out of the rack and pinion and has to have full articulation. It's got to be able to go up and down with the suspension, in and out, of course, as you're turning the wheel. And that inner joint goes bad over a period of time. On a T-type or an MGA, oh my gosh, it is such a horror to repair. But you can. You take it apart. I think I've got a video up about that using crude parts, a pipe wrench, get the thing apart, lap it into place, use a lot of lapping compound and lap it into place, get rid of the wear points on it, and then reassemble it. And you have to use selective shims. It's tedious to say the least. Starting with the MGB, the inner tie rod has a spring in it, a great big, heavy, heavy, thick spring, and you simply tighten up a big nut that goes around and holds the tie rod until you just lose full articulation, which means that it's hard to move the tie rod and back it off a little bit and peg it in place with a lock tab, which is there, and you're home free. The rack and pinion takes oil. The T-type, the TC takes really, really thick oil, just this side of grease. And that's like 140 weight, something like that, even heavier. We used to mix grease with heavy oil so that it wouldn't drip out the bottom of the steering box. Starting in 1950, or with the Y types, you use 8090 GL4 gear oil. Now there's a grease fitting, looks like a grease fitting, on the front of the rack and pinion on the T-types. It's not a grease fitting, it's an oil fitting. So you can buy an oil gun. You can fill up the oil gun with the oil, you can put it on there and screw the oil into the rack, and you're going to get 90 weight all over you, all over the floor, all over the car. It's a mess. It's a mess. I've never seen an oil gun that didn't drip and cause trouble. So to introduce oil into the rack and pinion, you have to take either the hollow nut at the top, which holds a brass plunger, on the cast iron rack housings, which are the T-type and the MGAs, or you take off the elliptical plate that's on top there, that's on the MGB half-inch wrench. The MGB comes apart so easily. Midgets always have a cap nut on them. MGCs also have that plate, like an MGB. So you take that plate out on the top and draw out the plunger assembly, and then drool 90 weight. I do have a video up about this. A drool in 90 weight into the top of the rack and pinion while your associate spins the steering wheel from lock to lock, and about that fast, and once you get enough oil into the rack that it barfs out as much as you're putting in, you stop there. There's no point in putting any more oil in it. You're just going to cause leaks. In that'll be enough oil, plenty of oil that's in the rack. Then when you put the shim pack back on, in this, it doesn't make any difference if it's a T type or an A or a B. There's shims that control how much pressure there is to push the rack down onto the pinion. And you want to take one or more of those shims out to account for wear. How many shims? Take out as many as you dare and crank the thing down tight, the nut or the plate. If you've taken out too many shims, the steering wheel is locked. It won't turn. Worse, if it's locked, you're not going to leave it there. Worse, it gets tight out at the edges because the rack itself wears. It's got a little bit of a dip right above the pinion where this brass plunger fits against it. That wear occurs when you're going straight down the road. So it only happens in one little tiny section of the top of the rack. So you can take it apart. You can have that surfaced at a good machine shop. Somebody that does the cylinder heads, for instance, they can strap the thing down and do and grind the top of it smooth again for you. So you put the 90 weight in there. More of the steering includes the steering column. So we've got the T type, which has a clover leaf and some bushings in it. You have to get that clover leaf back onto the rack correctly, so the motif in the steering wheel sits straight up and down. Oh my gosh, it took them until the MGA to figure out that you ought to have something with splines in it so you can put the steering wheel on here. The T-type wheel only goes on one, it's just a single key. And if you mess up on that clover leaf down at the bottom when you're servicing the rack and pinion, if you have it apart, then the steering wheel is always off on an angle, and you can't get it straight. Silly. Anyway, the great improvement on design with the introduction of the MGA. To get the steering wheel off on the T-type or the MGA, those have adjustable steering wheels, almost all of them, where you can push the wheel forward or backward depending on what's comfortable with you. They lost that nice ability to adjust with the MGB. Those have got fixed steering wheels. But the earlier ones have got a sliding wheel, and there's a keyway that's about that long, and uh, all but impossible to get out unless you get a real strong magnet or some air pressure. But if you use air, it's going to blow someplace you can't find it. You can buy a new one. They're real expensive. I mean, for all it is just a chunk of metal, a square piece of metal with rounded ends. But it's a keyway. You can get your steering wheel out of the steering column with the spline shaft on it. And then you can put it in a press or you can put it in a vise, use a hammer and pop the steering wheel off the inner steering column. Or my number one video, and do not attempt to remove your steering wheel without watching that video. It's how to remove a steering wheel on an MGB. It takes two people, not one person, not one person with a hammer or with a air chisel. Two people. One person's in there holding a double-faced hammer against the steering column after the nut's been backed off, so the nut is neither either setting down too far, because you're going to crush the threads on the column, or sitting too high, where you end up hitting the nut and then the nut bends and you ruin the threads again. You bring the nut right out to the end of the steering column. And as in the picture that I sent out last night with Kurt Saunier sitting in the driver's seat looking sort of horrified, please don't hit me with that 3-pound hammer. He's got a double-faced brass hammer up against the steering wheel, and he's got his knees wedged underneath underneath the wheel as though he's trying to pull the wheel off. He's grabbing the wheel with his two hands, pulling the steering wheel as though to pull the steering wheel off, but with one of those hands holding the double-faced hammer, and then your party, only on the command of the guy sitting in the driver's seat, hits the hammer. And if you do that, the steering wheel will always come off. We never had a steering wheel we couldn't get off. When you go to put it back on, wipe some grease in there, so at least it doesn't corrode or rust to the taper that's in there or to the splines. But any attempt to do this one person, you're gonna ruin the column. Starting in 1968, there isn't a steering column. There are two steering columns, and one fits around the other. Well, in fact, the smaller column fits into the larger column, and there's a Roman D where it fits in, a circle with flats cut out the side of it. And there's always some free play in there over a period of time. So when you grab a hold of your steering wheel and rotate it, there should be zero with rack and pinion. There should be zero free play. If there is free play, you want to chase it. You want to find out why. Is the steering wheel loose from the inner column? Is the inner column loose to the outer column? Is the outer column loose at the steering U joint? Is the steering U joint loose against the column or the pinion? Or is the rack and pinion adjusted so poorly that the pinion's actually turning a little bit and the rack isn't moving? But whenever you grab the steering wheel, not on the TC, those move about like that, just free play. The rest of them should be absolutely firm. There should be zero free play in there. So if you do have free play in your column, just chase it, figure out what it is. 68 through 80, if it's between the inner and outer column down inside the steering column, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. It's frustrating once you know it, and then it's like, oh, how do I take care of this? There's ways to do it. You can pin the column. I haven't ever met anyone who's poured plastic back in it. The columns are designed so that when your sternum hits the steering wheel, it's 60 miles an hour in a front end crash. Your chest isn't impaled or collapsed like it would be in a big Healey or a T-type. That the steering column collapse. It doesn't collapse a long way, but it might collapse an inch. That will relieve an awful lot of the force that your body would otherwise support if you were in a front crash. So let me see, steering wheels, and then the other thing that happens is you get a wobble in the wheel. You take a hold of the steering wheel and it moves up and down, sideways. Judd's going to come on here in a minute and show us what he's done out of a piece of the wood. He's only got the Latin name for the wood, but he's made a bushing. Some people make those bushings out of Delron. The original bushings on the T-types and the MGAs are felt, and it's okay, works until the felt finally collapses and you can take a hold of the steering wheel. It just bangs around some. It shouldn't have any free play. No rotational free play, of course, but it shouldn't move up and down or side to side either. So beginning in 1968, there's of course, a very complicated aluminum housing with a little steel roller in there, and that holds the switches. So when you move the steering wheel and you move it up and down, the switches move up and down also. Sometimes you can pop the wheel off, get the column covers off, and peen, P-E-E-N with hammer, the housing that goes around the roller bearing, but it's difficult. So in both the cases of the felt and the later ones, there are options. There are somebody's selling Delron bushings for the earlier cars, the MGAs and the T-types. I can't tell you who or where. And um, and then Judd fabricated his own. So Judd, you're on right now. Why don't you come on and show us that that picture with that rosewood.
Right.
Um,
It's vita lignin, and that's Latin for wood that's alive. My neighbor, who I think is on tonight, Peter DeYoung, is the machinist mechanic who knows what he's doing. I had the shop and the tools and the material. He had the skill and the knowledge to know how to do it. But basically, on this MGC, the bearing had completely just deteriorated. So the thing moved like you were just saying, maybe an inch or so total in every direction. For some reason, I don't remember whether we couldn't get a bushing or we just thought this would be cool. And so that's what we did. We started out. We took the old one out, used it as a pattern. Then we cut it out of this wood. By the way, I got that wood from Walmart, mail order. Came right to my mailbox. And then cut it up and put it into the housing. And it's the wood is oily. It's real slick, and so it's permanently lubed, if you will, and put everything back together. And it's just lovely.
so you ended up putting that bushing inside the aluminum housing.
No, I think we replaced the aluminum housing with that bushing, if I'm not mistaken. Peter, are you on?
Yeah.
You don't know how to.
Okay.
Uh, anyway, no, this piece of metal right here.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
put it inside of that. That's right. We put it inside of this piece of metal right here.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That's very, very, very nice. Certainly, all those early columns need that. So, David, hey, you got a question there. Hit the space bar. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Boy, I've been excited to talk about this subject for a while. I I struggled with this problem with my 69 GT. It's actually an MGC. And the steering wheel would move vertically up and down almost an eighth of an inch. There was so much play. It was very annoying. So I took the whole thing apart and discovered that bearing that you guys are talking about. So this is the bearing,
Right.
okay? And so you're looking at the aluminum cylinder and press fit into that aluminum cylinder is a roller element bearing.
And then that's peened around the top.
Yes, it's peened around the top. And so this is if you remove this little lip
Pick that
around,
up.
pull
Pick it
that
up.
out.
Pick it up more so we can see it. Up, up, up. There we go. Okay.
So if you remove that lip, which is thin, right? It's
Hmm.
almost like they just hit it with squished it. This will pull out, and it's a mild press fit into the bore of this sleeve. And then what you have is I took that whole bearing apart. So this
Okay.
is the inner and out. It's actually three pieces. It's really cheaply made. It looks like it's mild steel made out of sheet metal. It has an inner and outer race, and there's two rows of ball bearings,
And those
inner and
things are about a
outer.
16th of an inch in diameter. They're
Yeah,
tiny.
yeah, they're tiny. And this bearing was completely worn out. You can see the wear on the race. And here's another one this is where the one that I took apart.
Okay.
And inside the bore of this, there's six little ribs, and those little ribs provide the interference with the OD of the ball bearing. And after a while, those ribs just squish. and then you get the play from the bearing and you get the play from this fit. And then I didn't know what to do. And then I thought to myself, I wonder if this collar, this bearing, upper bearing, is the same on an MGB. And it turns out it is. So I went out and collected a bunch of used MGB columns. I guess the 68s and the 69s are identical. And then in 70, they changed it a little bit. And so these collars for the 68s and 69s, like you said, this collar is a bayonet fit, and you insert it into the shroud of the column and twist it, and it's held in place by two set screws on the OD. So if you can find a replacement bearing that's in good shape, you can do this yourself. You can replace this. In 70, like here's the other bearing. You can see the set screws on the OD, right? They're just Phillips screws. But on the 70s through the 76s, perhaps, they're riveted. So it makes replacing it really difficult. So I don't know how to do that. You'd have to drill those out and everything like that. But I've been trying to figure out, is there an actual replacement roller bearing that you can use? I mean, this is not a serviceable BL part. There is no part number for this, as far as I can tell. The whole steering column is its own part number. So I don't think this was ever intended to be serviceable. But
You know, those steering columns are made in Saginaw, Michigan.
I did not know that.
So it, you know, if I don't know, you know, if you get the inside and outside diameter of that bearing, go to the
I know.
bearing store.
And I have emailed various bearing vendors, and no one's been able to come up with a part. And I'm very puzzled by this because I know that there must be one. There has to be.
And
This has to be an off the shelf part that's probably used on another car somewhere. And curiously enough, in my many hours of scrolling through um, online content or whatnot, I I'm almost convinced just from looking at pictures and some specs that this little bearing that I'm looking for is almost the same size as the bearing that's used on the same year Corvette.
well, it could be. I mean, it's American manufactured, so sure.
Yeah. So, but I was curious if anybody else online has gone down this rabbit hole and has discovered a part that actually interchanges with this. The I saw the wooden thing a couple of months ago, watching another video or whatnot, and I thought, oh, that's clever. That's a really unique way, low cost of dealing with the problem. Um, but I was just trying to figure out if there's an actual bearing that somebody's been able to find.
And the British cars don't use those columns. So it's not like you can go to Rimmer Brothers or something. They didn't, the British cars use solid columns for a long time.
But yeah, okay. So I just happened to get lucky and found a used column from a 69 MGB and swapped out
Hey, cool.
a
Yep.
part, and it fits perfectly and it works. But I've never heard anybody talk about this. So anyway,
And no one's responding yet either. So it's you know,
you're probably the only crazy one, uh,
Judd came,
community.
you know, Judd just got it done, you know.
Yeah,
You
right.
know,
He
just
just,
got it
yeah,
done.
Gordian. I believe in Gordian.
I was just down at Glenn's and Glenn, I last year when I was at Glenn's, I said he's got every tool in the world, and I said, why don't you have a lathe? And he said, I've never used a lathe. I said, how can you can't run a shop without a lathe. Well, then a week later after I left last year, he bought one. And when I went down this year, he's making all this stuff, and one of the things he was making were some upper column bushings. Of course, it took forever because you only made a couple of them, with a lip on them and everything on for T-types. But it's the same thing for here. You could make a Delron bushing that would go inside there. There's a spring-loaded on the original one. There's a spring-loaded clip that fixes the inner column to the bearing, so it hasn't got any push and pull to it. And so I don't know. I saw that on Judd's picture there. I saw the ring in the inner column that takes the horseshoe clip. There's the horseshoe clip on the left in that elongated picture. There isn't one on the right, not on the picture you got up now, but the other picture you had up, Judd, was there. You can see right, what, a quarter of an inch, 3/16 of an inch in front of your wood bushing, is that
You can't
ring,
see the pic.
and that's got that's supposed to have that horseshoe clip on it and fixes the upper column so the upper column doesn't push in or out. We used to get those cars in every now and then, probably after they'd been in an accident or something, and that clip had popped out, and you could take the steering wheel and push it way in and pull it way out. Didn't come out of the car, couldn't, because it was stopped by a boss on the inner column, but it sure would press in and caught in with like a horn push on a 73 would cause all kinds of trouble with that feeler that goes on the backside for the horn. So anyway,
Hey, John,
yes,
George here.
yes,
That
sir.
bearing almost looks like the bearings that goes in the crank on bicycles. Either side of the crank on the
Okay,
bicycle has
all right.
stupid little bearings like that, and also up on the yoke of the steering. I've seen those bearings somewhere, and that's what's coming to memory, but
Okay, so
I might be wrong.
David, hey, you got an idea there. Chase that on a bicycle application. So, yep. And the bearings in there, once those things come apart, the bearings roll out and they're just tiny and oh my gosh. Yep. All right, so do we have some more questions about steering at all? I went through that pretty quickly. It's 8 o'clock. We're we're sort of on time here, but do we have any more questions about
Hey, John.
steering?
Hi. Yeah, I got a question for you. On the steering rack where you add the oil with it, and
Yeah.
on a B,
Yes.
besides the shims, there's a gasket on the cap.
Sometimes.
So in my mind, the gasket kind of does the same thing as the shim, doesn't it? Keeping
Yes.
that piston
Oh yeah,
from going.
absolutely.
So if you've got shims and it's shimmed properly, you shouldn't use a gasket.
Well, I've tried a couple different ways. If everything is smooth, the bottom of that elliptical plate is smooth, and the top of the rack is smooth. When you put that all back together and crank it down, there's hardly any oil that'll weep out of there. If you want to make sure that no oil weeps out of there, you can take some gasket goo and put it on each of the shims as you're stacking them all together, and then squish it all down, and the gasket goo goes to zero. I mean the thickness of it, and it will prevent it from going out. But if you've got a gasket in there, I don't know, the gasket's got to be good for 3 or 4 thousandths of an inch. So when we did our complete lubes, we always took out the thinnest shim. We just took out the thinnest shim, and sometimes you end up with one that's pretty thick. You take that out, and whoops, too much. So we just put it back together with that original shim in there. But it's just to account for wear. So
All
there
right.
is.
I haven't been running a gasket for a while, but I do get some seepage, and
Well, that undercoats the bottom
that's
side of the car, so it doesn't
perpetual
bust in half
undercoating.
like a Fiat. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I won't worry about getting a gasket there.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, David, let's see, we got Steve Shupak, who I think introduced me to the raised hands. Steve, what's up?
It wasn't quite me, but I will thank you for the credit. Um, Actually, when you're putting those bearings back together, and I've done a couple of bottom brackets for my bike years ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't grease hold the bearings in while you're assembling the thing?
Absolutely. Yep,
And
red
and that's
grease.
a ma yeah, that's the magic solution. Glue,
That
mechanic glue.
it's mechanics glue, number two, lithium grease. Absolutely. Yep, and I was at uh, Sean English's house in the shadow of Mount Vernon in Virginia, and we were working on one of his cars on one of my East Coast tours, and we had two steering U joints apart, and all the needles, of course, fell out of the steering U joint, and those needles are closer to a definition of a needle than they are in a U joint for like a drive shaft. And we did. We put grease in there, and I think there were 29 or 27 needle bearings on the inside of those. I remember counting them, remembering it for a while. But yeah, grease holds anything like that in place. It's great stuff. And
Hey, John.
yes,
I've got a 57A.
yes,
And if you take the steering wheel off just below the splines close to the front, you were saying that it has felt around there. Is that what you were
there's
saying?
between the inner and outer column at the very top, right where that chrome ring with the
Right.
right where that riser is supposed to be a felt bushing. Yes.
Mine's leather. I wonder if somebody just
Somebody did.
replaced it.
Well, old
That
felt can look like leather sometimes, but no, it originally it's felt. Leather sounds
all
pretty
right.
good.
All right, because it looks like a small belt, and they cut an angle on it
Hmm.
where it comes together.
Sure.
You know. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I'd never thought of that as an option, but that's another use for an old belt. Unless you got
Yeah.
grandkids and want to discipline them. Yeah. Yeah. So
John, John, it's Rob Nichols here from Vancouver, BC.
yes, sir.
I've got a 69 MGB, and on the steering rack, you know that oval plate that you pull off,
Yes.
and then underneath there's a sleeved piston, and
Right.
and then there's a little brass, I think it's bronze actually, like a cup with a spring
Yes.
on.
Yes. The
Now,
plunger.
I've watched a lot of things. Those little cups, those little bronze cups are really expensive.
Yes.
Now I've seen a few videos where you can actually take it and move it 90 degrees,
If you
so
want, or you
and
can
then put it back in again. Is that correct?
you can do that. Certainly, you can do that. You can surface it and put it back in, or you can put it back in with the wear that's still there. With the
How
little cup,
how
just line it up
how
and just that taking the shims out accounts for that.
yeah, how thick is that surface when
Don't
there's a
know.
groove in it?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I've ever seen one worn through. Okay, and I've seen lots of them. So I don't think I've ever seen one worn through. So
Okay. Well, that was sort of my question on
yeah.
that. Thank you very much.
Hey, you're very welcome. And who else is somebody else know their hands up right now?
Hey,
So
John, it's Ryan Kubanoff.
yeah, Ryan.
How are you? So, literally 2 days after the last event, I managed to pick up an abandoned MG 74 MG midget project,
Okay.
which was basically completely stolen. Complete car for literally $500 as long as I got it out within 24 hours. So that's leading me all kinds of things. The one question I've got is, I've got a steering rack that I know nothing about. One of the problems about picking up a project is I don't know anything about it. Like normally, oh, the car's got a little play, I can figure it out. I know nothing. The previous owner seemed to say that he thought it had a little play in it, but he only drove the car 500 miles.
Okay. So
So,
I didn't mention earlier that the steering column on a midget doesn't have a U joint. That's why the
yep,
steering comes up at such a weird angle. And it there's a splined end on that steering column that
yep,
fits over the pinion. The pinion's only what, an inch and a half, 2 inches long,
about that,
and
yeah.
there's a 5/16 bolt that goes through there. But over a period of time, if that's all been loose, the steering column rotates on the pinion. I've
Okay,
never seen one strip out. Okay, never seen
okay,
one strip out, but
yep,
certainly that could happen. So if you got a 5/16 nut on there, even a grade 8, and you crank it down as hard as you possibly can, usually you cannot collapse the end of that column enough to get rid of that play. Maybe you can. What we used to do is drill it out to 3/8 and then from 5/16 and then use a grade 8 bolt and nut and
okay,
crank it down, and that would take care of that play there. So the play in the column on the midget, 74 midget, is the wheel to the inner column to the outer column. The outer column it goes down and captures that pinion. And then, of course, there can be play in the rack and pinion too. But on yours, you don't have an elliptical plate on the top. You've just got a nut. You
yep,
take that nut off. There's a plunger in there. There's shims. We're dealing with the same kind of thing.
okay,
And you can drool the 90 weight in there, and then take out a couple of shims. And as long as you can spin the steering wheel freely, or if you've got the things all in the car, you take the wheel's sitting in front of you, and grab it and really push the front wheel. It should bang and come halfway back.
okay.
I mean, there shouldn't be any prohibition to the freeness of the wheels.
Okay. Is there anything like literally this is in 10,000 pieces. I've got a bare steel body and
A
you know,
kit,
it's a
a
complete kit.
kit.
It's got I mean don't get me wrong. It's got the new front he went nuts and bought the front line suspension,
Hey, oh my
rear
gosh.
brakes, the whole bit, the
Oh my
whole thing.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Well,
Um
just take one. My suggestion is, Ryan, is do one part at a time. Get the body done first.
yep.
Get that painted first, and while that's out, prep everything else. Try to get the taillights, the bumpers,
Yeah.
the
Well, no.
sus-
So sadly enough, this isn't my first round of doing this. I did one, I finished one about 3 years ago. But is there anything I should look at as far as play in the steering rack before I put it in, or is there anything way to check it before I put it in? Because I really don't want to put this thing in and have to pull the radiator back
then
out when
so
I'm doing this.
grab the pinion with a pair of vice grips.
Yep.
And the question is, can you get any play at all? If you can get any play without the rack moving, then you have to take more shims out.
Okay. Okay. That'll work. That'll work.
Okay.
Yep. It's going to be a fun one. Thank you very much, John. Once again.
Okay. Hey, you're very welcome. Jim, you're back on? Is your hand still
I
up?
am, yes.
Yep.
I have a question, 63B. I redid the bushings in the steering column, took the steering wheel off and the switch assembly and everything. That horn push seems to be unavailable. The contact, it's a spring-loaded little son of a gun, tough to get down in there, and rubs on the inside of a brass collar or bronze collar. And I made my own up, but it
Yeah.
was not easy, and I can't find one to buy.
Don't know what to tell you about that. I mean, I've taken those apart before, soldered a new wire end, put a
Yeah, I
wire
put a
down
new wire
inside
in
the
it. Yeah.
column, and you can solder that to that brass sleeve on the outside for the horn push.
It
I've
actually
done,
didn't have one, so I don't even have the button and the spring to try to rehab.
Oh
So,
man, I would if you scoured the used parts people,
well, no, just the replacement parts houses that don't
yeah,
have
okay, all right.
money.
So go to I'm a real fan. There's two places. One is Sports Car Craftsman in
Yeah.
Denver, Colorado.
All right.
He'll know exactly what you're talking about and the frustrations you've got. And the other place is Bob Cook. What's the name of the place in Ohio? Why can't I remember that all the time? It's not Triumph Rest.
Team
Because
Triumph.
it has the
Team
word
Triumph.
triumph in it.
Team Triumph.
Okay.
Even though you're not really violating any rules by going to Team Triumph, because he's got lots of stuff there. Anyway, so those are two places, and just check. Someone's got a used one.
I'm sure somewhere. Yeah, I didn't know if someone was remaking it or, remans.
Cottage industry.
Yep.
There's a cottage industry all throughout these vehicles. I'll go mention Doug Pelton again with the TCs. They only made 10,000 TCs, right? And how many of those are still left around the world? What, 5,000? And Doug started 15 years ago, and he hasn't got a lock on the market that Moss sells TC parts. A lot of people do, but you want the right part that fits, from an experienced person. He's got the market wrapped up. So and that's more than maybe a cottage industry. He's got a couple guys working in Phoenix, but anyway, yeah, there's a place out there for all of us to make little things.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, you're very welcome. All right, next one up, David Basili, what's up?
I just want to make a comment, John, on the steering for all the guys,
You,
model MGB, changing out their steering wheel to these nice, fancy wooden steering wheels. And one of the things that I experienced is that there is a significant difference in wheels and the steering wheel heavier, and they deaden a lot of the vibration you get out of the car when you're rolling down the road compared to these wooden steering wheels.
okay.
Shift to the wooden compared to the original knob that weighs maybe 2 or 3 times more than that wooden knob. That black knob deadens a lot of vibration. And so for the guys that are considering moving to wooden wheels that, look significant difference in how you feel from the road between the stock steering wheel and these wooden wheels. Those stock wheels really absorb a lot of better feel as your just been my observation.
Thanks. You were cutting in and out there, but I think everybody got the point. Is that the wooden wheel transmits the noise a whole lot more than a leatherette wheel or a plastic wheel does. Same thing, and I don't know if you said that about the gear shift knob. Oh my gosh, you get a nice wood gear shift knob and put that on your gearbox, and all of a sudden you're hearing all this swishing noise and all this gearbox noise. It's like take it off and see if the noise goes away. Another thing that I didn't even mention at all is don't get a smaller steering wheel. I mean, maybe they look cool, and maybe if you get a race car, it's different, but not on the street. My MGA's got what, a 16-inch wheel on it or something. It's great. I mean, the mechanical advantage is tremendous. Steering is really, really easy. So anyway, thank you, David. Thank you very, very much for pointing that out. That's absolutely true. So we've got Jim. Jim, are you back on? You get your hand up again, or didn't you turn the hand off? I don't. I'm not Jim Nakos. Anyway, we're going to go right now to Bob Kuhn.
Hey, John, I just picked up that Orient Red 57 MGA that's been advertised on eBay and other places. that had the $40,000 invested one on her car. It's an interesting project. They've replaced everything you can, including body parts, from moss on the car. So nothing fits.
Right.
But the problem that I've got with this is the steering. As soon as we got it off the trailer, is incredibly stiff on it. And talking about steering, I'm trying to figure that out.
Okay. All right.
Where should I go?
So there are a bunch of things you always do. The cheapest, easiest, simplest stuff first. And the first thing is to separate the tie rods from the tie rod ends. It's the first thing. You could pop the tie rod ends off the steering arms, but you're going to wreck them or something. On the shop, you know what you're doing. That would be a faster way. But unscrew those and then check the swivels. Are they nice and free, or is one or both of those tight? Okay,
Okay.
start there. Then if they're both free and it's still real difficult to turn the steering wheel, then you got to pull the column away from the U joint, or unscrew that cap on the top of the rack and pinion. That's a cast iron rack housing. It's a cast iron rack housing. So there's no way it can bend. It'll break, but it won't bend. I had a customer who brought his MGB GT into the shop, and I got into it to driving in. You could hardly turn the wheel; it's just really stiff. And I called him up and I said, "Dude, you came in here because complaining to something." I said, "But I can barely steer it." I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "Well, it wasn't like that until the last stop that I made." And I said, "Well, what were you towing the car with?" And he goes, "Well, a chain." I said, "Around what?" And he goes, "Oh, something up there." So he put the chain around the rack and pinion and bent the rack and pinion. So, but that can't happen on an MGA. But separate the tie rods from the tie rod ends. See if the sides are tight, and then after that, maybe take the cap off the rack and pinion. Maybe do that first because it's my mantra: do the cheapest, easiest, simplest stuff first. So. Anyway,
Yeah,
but
lube it and goes from there. Okay.
I had one guy who said, "Oh my gosh, it was the steering column." Somebody, hadn't taken a leather belt, but the felt, and packed the felt with a punch and a hammer and jammed the felt in so tight that you couldn't turn the steering column. So it's something. It just step by step. So
Okay. Thank you.
absolutely. Okay, Steve Shupak, you're on again.
Yeah, it just dawned on me. I didn't ask the question I probably should have asked earlier. We're talking about steering wheels, and yeah, the wife likes the wooden trim one a lot better than the
Yeah.
plastic one.
Oh, for
Um,
sure. Yeah, it looks like.
and the question I have is, the old stock plastic one. How do you tell if there's dish on it or not?
If there's what?
Dish, because I see the new wheels or the replacement wheels can be either flat or dished.
Oh, oh, oh.
And how much dish is there, or how flat? I mean, as I look at it's got maybe, I don't know, a quarter inch or maybe it's offset. Is it dish or offset? I
Sure,
forget which.
I know what you mean. So
Yeah,
so it positions it towards the dash or away from the dash.
away from the dash. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I've never measured anything like that. I haven't a clue.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Bob Kuhn, you're up next. Bob Kuhn, you still there or maybe not?
No, I think maybe I didn't realize my hand was still up.
Oh, look at that. There's a wooden steering wheel. Yeah, but it doesn't make any difference because it looks like it'd be pretty hard to sit upside down in the car like that. So yeah, that's that's a project there. Holy moly. You still got a ways to go, but it looks real nice from here. Okay. Do we have any more questions about steering? Because it's eight.
John, George.
George, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun trying to figure out that hand that everybody puts up there. I put one up and it
That's okay.
waved at you, but
Well,
anyway, I've got a steering on my MGA. I've checked the tie rods are nice and tight. I've checked it up where it comes out of the actual housing. I can't find any play. If I hit a bump just right, that I call it my whole steering wheel just pukes. It just goes wow. And then it settles down until I hit another bump.
how are your shocks good?
Yeah, they were worldwide auto parts did them for me.
Okay. All right. They
Yeah,
ought to be okay. Um, but if you put your hand on the fender and actually bounced it,
yeah, they're good. I'm at my wit's end on that thing because you never know what bump you're going to hit to where it just goes wow. It just bang back and forth. It's crazy.
Have you checked toe in and tire pressure?
Yeah, I've done both of that, and I'm just wondering if I have just too much play in the rack and pinion itself to where it's just bouncing around.
Hey,
maybe.
John,
But
John,
if you got too much play, then the wheel will rotate freely. I mean, it'll move, a quarter of an inch on its circumference or something.
Yeah, I've tried
Um,
that. I've tried holding my fingers down on the tie rods both ends while working the
yeah.
steering. No play. I can't find
Where
anything.
where are you?
Phoenix.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say you could treat me like a high-priced escort and fly me to you, you know? And
Well, I'd always, if I could get enough guys together, we could probably do that,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I've been working on it for some time. Well,
Um, I know what you mean, that shuddering that just goes right through the car.
oh
So,
yeah,
maybe it's just time to visit everything and make sure the shocks are tight on the frame. Make sure that what that you grab, with the wheels on, you grab the wheels top and bottom and shake them. Bounce the shocks again. It's really hard to duplicate that, and you can. It's really dangerous. You can have somebody tandem with you, and have the passenger watching the wheel and see, is it the left wheel or the right wheel as you
yeah,
keep crossing these railroad tracks. But oh my gosh, it's relatively dangerous to be out there with a couple of cars. And
yeah.
anyway, I'm sorry. I'm
I
sorry, George. I don't know. But call me tomorrow, and just call me or Wednesday, and let me cogitate about this for a while,
oh,
because it's
okay.
yours isn't the only car that does this, and I like to approach everything from the simplest, easiest approach first. So
Well, I'm going to convert over to disc brakes on the car,
it's a
and I've
waste.
got every.
You understand it's a waste of money. The only reason you're doing it is because it's cool.
Well, I find disc brakes stop a little better, you know, but
Not really. The drum brake, you got a MGA 1500, obviously,
yeah, yeah,
and you jam if your shoes are semi-metallic and they're all adjusted up and there's no goo on them or anything, you jam on the brakes, you can lock all four wheels just like that.
yeah. I don't know. I agree. No, I've been told that many times, and
Okay,
I'm old school, and yeah, I know that, but it just
okay,
for my age, it's better. One real quick question, a little bit off subject. The grill on an MGB, the air intake grill for your heater, okay, the little chrome
yeah,
grill.
yeah.
Okay, popped it off to paint it, but now the catches that hold the studs, it won't stay in the hole anymore. It just
It will never come out. Just lay it back in there, and then before you put it back in there, put a screen in there.
yeah, I got a screen in it. Yeah,
Okay, just if you have to, take some silicone and push it down in each of the holes and push the thing on. It'll never come out. It will never bounce off.
great. I was thinking about doing that, but I thought,
And
well, maybe
and
there's a
then
way, you
then
know.
when you go to the car show and you're looking at the guy next to you and he's got a toothbrush and a toothpick and he's cleaning the wax out from underneath the fresh air grill, all you have to do is pull yours off and polish around and put it back on.
Yeah, let me show you what I can do, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, John, thanks for
Great.
your help.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, well, I think maybe we've gone through most of our questions about steering, although we could talk for another hour about it, I bet, but I've got a bunch.
John,
Yes.
you've got a gentleman named William who's waving and looks like he wants to say something.
Okay, William, you're on. I didn't see it from, I don't know, on my machine. I don't know. Anyway, William, are you on?
He doesn't know how to unmute. Hit the
Can't
Oh,
hear
space
it.
bar
I
on
can't
your
hear him.
keyboard.
all right. So use the space bar on your keyboard simply to press it, And
Yeah.
okay, there you go. Okay.
Well, thank you. My mechanic wants to put grease in my rack and pinion
Okay.
nipple.
Well, you tell him that the worldwide expert on MGs has told him that he remembers that from another vehicle. I don't want to insult him, but no, not grease. That makes the steering really sluggish. What year and model do you have?
Fit 1950 TD.
Okay, it looks like a grease fitting. It's not. It's an oil fitting. So to get oil in that rack and pinion, you've got to use a 9/16 BSF wrench, go up above where the pinion goes into the rack, unscrew the cap nut. You can just barely reach it. Put some kind of hook in there and drool 90 weight gear oil in there, like we've been talking about.
Yeah, I missed that part.
But anyway, it's 90 weight gear oil, not grease.
Oh, and what would be the problem with putting grease in there?
It makes the steering really sluggish. So when you go around the corner, you take your you take your hands off the wheels don't come back straight for much longer than it should take them
Oh, I see.
because there's restriction to movement in the rack and pinion. So
And that's one of the nicest things about the TD. It's very nimble.
it is nimble and you will lose the nimbleness. Yep. You will lose the nimbleness with grease.
Good. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So Ian.
Hey, John, how you doing?
I know right at the beginning of the session I'd say, so who's the youngest guy here? But it would always be you, so you'd always win.
Well, I actually just got here. I was late today. I'm so
Okay.
embarrassed. But I know everybody missed me, but I guess I had a little bit of an off-topic question, just real quick. I assume you're about to go over the chat, so I bring it up. I was just curious about your for let's say MGBs for this subject. For fuel, like my 66B, for example, what would you think is the best kind of gas put in it?
Well, start with a high test, and then
Okay.
after you get used to it, go to the next lower one.
Yeah.
87 is probably too low for a real early B with a high compression, but you know what your compression is when you check it?
I haven't done one
Okay.
recently. Yeah.
All right. Well, if it's 140 pounds, 150 pounds, you want to use high grade, but you always use the cheapest gas you can. The things that'll happen from low grade gasoline are dieseling when you turn it off, ba-bum, 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 and that may happen in any case.
Yeah.
And the other one, which is far worse, is pinging, the rattling that you get on acceleration, which can be from wrong timing, but it can also be from low octane gasoline. The higher the octane, the slower the burn. So it's a controlled burn, and you don't want it rattling because what the rattling is when the gasoline ignites, begins to expand, and the piston is still compressing the flame front, squishing this burning mass up. And it sounds just like you got a box of rocks and you're shaking it. I mean, it's just horrible. It's a metallic sound, but it's pitting and ruining the top of your pistons. So.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you for that. That's just a little off topic, but I was kind of curious about
Yep,
that.
and if you can't get high enough octane, you can mix toluene. It just go online. There's some home brews that you can. They're pretty simple. Toluene and a little bit of Marvel mystery oil automatic
Yeah,
treatment.
I've heard of
Just
that
a
one.
little tiny bit.
I put 90 octane on ethanol in it right now. So
Okay, yeah, that'll do it.
that gets me by. So
Okay.
And I guess for let's say a 76B, a little bit lower compression, is that so that's kind of you go back down a little bit?
89's fine.
89's good. Yeah.
I have a fear of running 87 in any of our cars, but yeah, the later model cars are 8-1. The T types came out, the original T types came out, they're 7.25-1. And they were designed to run on 80 octane. So, that much lower than the 87, which is available to pumps. So
Okay. Hey,
look it
John,
up.
thank you.
Hey, you're very welcome. All right, Jim Pastore, you're waving your hand. But
Sorry, there you go.
there we go.
To get back to the William who said something about the grease, I know in my Healey, I used cornhead grease, not 90 weight.
But that's not rack and pinion, right?
Yeah,
That's a
but I've
straight
not
box.
tried it in MG, but I know other people that have. Very little leakage at all. And
Okay.
it's John Deere cornhead grease. It's green. It's the only place you can get it, and it's the consistency of a thick nail polish, thicker than
It's been a
90.
while since I put nail polish on it. I'm not
Yeah.
quite.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Okay.
A very watery silicone.
Okay.
Cornhead grease. It's green. It's only get it at a John Deere dealer. You have to pump it through, you know.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I put it in my Healey because it leaked out.
Oh yeah. Well, those steering
whole thing.
boxes,
It's
that's
terrible.
that's what they do. Yeah.
Never had a drop leak out. And
Okay.
it's designed for high temperature tractors.
Okay.
So the viscosity doesn't break down. I know somebody locally here that actually put it in their B, and they said it was fine.
Okay. All
I've
right.
never tried it.
Okay. Thank you. Cornhead grease by John Deere.
Yep, it's green.
Okay. Green, of course. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Jim's the organizer. Jim and his wife Lori are the organizers of the Central Pennsylvania British Car Fest, and that's the 32nd must be this year. Okay. All right. So I'm trying to get some my chat section up here, which is I don't know why it's fighting me tonight. So here we go. James, I'm interested in purchasing a rebuild or new cylinder head for my 77B. I have fairly great compression disparity, cylinder number 3. While rebuilding the original head sounds like a fun project, it's not something I want to take on right now. If I go that route, is there one I should get over the other, emissions, non-emissions? It'll be less expensive to have this, as long as it's not cracked. It'll be less expensive to have a valve job done on your 77B than to get a new cylinder head, a replacement cylinder head, which is, I think, the aluminum ones are what, 1,500, two grand, something like that. So there are lots and lots of places that will repair the cylinder head. If it's cracked, then that's another issue. There are incremental changes that your machine shop will ask you to do. They'll say, well, it needs valve guides. All right, so you put in cast iron valve guides. It needs seats on the exhaust. The exhaust seats are shot. Okay, so you put seats in. Now we're up to $500. You want to get it ported and polished. You want us to check the compression and lower the compression, increase the compression so your car runs a little faster. With a 77B, you probably have a bad cam anyway. So anyway, I'd get the valve job done instead of buying a replacement cylinder head. That's what I would suggest. Tom Dupar says, can T-Series rear suspensions be beefed up? They're okay the way they are. Tom, are you on? You got some specific complaint about yours? Tom Dupar. You can always take the shocks off and send them to Worldwide Auto in Madison, Wisconsin. They will rebuild them, whether they're the Girling or the Armstrongs. If the car is sitting unevenly in the back or in the front can be a function of the back springs too. But if you take a tape measure and measure from the ground through the center of the wheel to the bottom of the wheel arch, it should be the same distance on both sides. But I've never had anybody complain about a weak rear suspension. Let's see, Marty's got some stuff on here. Mr. Reeves has a 48TC. Judd, do you have the dreaded new and improved version of Zoom? My screen looks different. I think I did a Zoom last night for the organizers of MG 2026, and before I went on, it downloaded something, so I'm not sure. But anyway, I don't know. Let's see. Gerald Dalton said I had to restart my computer and use the blue button workplace. Then everything was as usual. So yes, apparently something's going on there. Um, and let's see. Chip Rico, have you done a session on oil leaks? Marty, have we done one on oil leaks?
Yep, I posted it.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. All right. Oh, Tech 450. Yeah, that was 50 Zooms ago. No wonder no one remembers. Yeah. And Marty asked what should we um, cover and so forth. Wool number one says, what are your thoughts about the VW steering conversion for the TC that Doug sells? Hey, it's a dramatically better steering system. Oh my gosh. It used to be the Datsun, some Datsun pickup truck. Everybody did that, but then those pickup trucks got too old and there weren't any more in the junkyards in Australia, which is where they were sourced from. But if you want better steering, if you want a TC, then keep your steering box. But if you want a car that looks like a TC but runs a whole lot better, I had a guy come around one time with he says, drive my TC. Front fenders are gone, got cycle fenders on it. It's got a supercharger on it. It's got a 5-speed gearbox in that Datsun steering. He said, what do you think? And I said, well, it drives great, but it doesn't drive like a TC. So it just depends what you want. I think that conversion is, if you can get over the part that it isn't original, it's a great system. Oh my gosh. And then Bill Reeves says, yes, please talk about the VW replacement steering, but I don't know very much about it. Let's see, where are we going? Just a moment here. I'm looking for ideas. Where can I buy rack boots for a 62 MGA? That's a good question. The major supplier, their rubber parts have been bad for 40 years. You can start restoring a car and the rack boots will fail before you even get the car back on the road. It is so horrid. I don't understand. I just took some rack boots off a TD. That they were not the original rack boots, but they were nice and hard, nice and good. Cecilia at Scarborough Fair, who sells all parts MGA, certainly has good rack boots, certainly. And you can also try somebody like Rimmer Brothers, who's got a different source than our major supplier here in this country. But they, it's been a problem. It's been a problem for a long time. So there are bronze bushings for TDs, TFs advertised in the Sacred Octagon. Um, anyway, so but again, that bronze bushing sounds cool, but we were talking about suspension last week, and we're talking about how hard the rubber, the bushings are in the suspension. And if you keep going in the direction of I want them firmer, just put needle bearings in, and then you'll feel every single bump and rattle and vagary in the road surface. The rubber is nice and it smooths it out some. And the felt is nice, but bronze bushings may be better than the felt. Post the dimensions of that bearing here. We can all go hunting. Okay. Here, the Corvette bearing, we talked about that. And Marty says, take our survey. Can you check the steering rack on a 74 midget when it's out of the car? Ryan Kumanoff, we already answered that. Absolutely. Here we go. Bill Thornton. I recently changed my carburetor from an original Zena Stromberg to a Weber downdraft. Also had to change the exhaust, which has resulted in the steering column rubbing against the new pipe. Apart from the vibration, any long-term effects? No, but it just, especially on deceleration, I expect, Bill Thornton. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's just, It may be that your motor mounts are faulty, and that's why the engine isn't sitting in there. It may be that the headers are poorly made. Could be. And again, the best manifold, anytime you change to any other carburation, the best manifold, absolutely, positively, 100%, take it from me, I got an attitude about it, is the double Y original exhaust manifold, is fitted from 1962 through 1980 in England, 1962 through 74 here. There's a difference in the width of the flange manifold, but it's between the HS and the HIF carburetors, but you can get around that pretty easily. And then you get a wonderful exhaust, absolutely. And remember, all headers are noisy, all headers are hot, all headers leak, some headers vibrate, all headers are headaches. That's just my opinion. GA Reed, if you use the stock exhaust manifold, oh, there we go. Yep. So it's anyway, and it could be that the motor mounts are faulty on that later model car. Needle rolling bearings. David Hayes got the measurement on them here. 3/4 by 1 1/4 by half. Sounds like a bearing you could buy from a bearing store. So anyway, let's keep going here. Brad Schwartz, tell us a good way to align the front end and the steering wheel. That is a good question. Thank you. I missed that altogether. So the first thing you do when you align the front end is unscrew both of the tie rods from the tie rod ends and count the number of turns that come off each side. Maybe one side unscrews 18 half turns and the other one unscrews 27 half turns. You can put a pair of vice grips on it and you can count half turns. Sometimes you can count whole turns. The T-types have got a actually slot on the tie rod where you can put a wrench on it, and it's really nice. The later ones, you got to use a pair of vice grips. If you put a paint pencil mark on it, you can watch it come around. Anyway, get that total number, add it together, divide it in half. Okay, now we've got an even number of you've got a place to put both the tie rods back in. Then you align the front end. I do have a video up about aligning the front end. The poor man's alignment tool scabbed up out of some 2x4s, a lot of different ways. Some people use string. I still don't understand how that works because the width of the wheels in the front and the back is different. And so how can you make sure that that's good? You're always looking for a toe in, just incremental. I mean, just incremental toe in. Can't have a toe out. Just a little bit of a toe in, 1/16 of an inch, 32nd of an inch. Every time you make the adjustment, you have to roll the car backwards and roll it ahead again. Sometimes, if you put the wheels on waxed papers, 3 or 4 pieces of waxed paper, then the wheels can move. But it's still better to push the car backward. Push it forward, check it again. Push it back after you adjust it, push it back, push it ahead, check it again. Check, check, check until you've got that 1/16 of an inch of toe in. Then the steering wheel is on an angle. Okay. When you're all done, steering wheel's on an angle. Pop the wheel off, take the nut, 2 people, pop the wheel off, go out put it back on, put the nut on loose, go out in the street and drive it. Oops. Move it a spline, get it as close as you can. Won't be perfect. Get as close as you can. And then make an incremental change on the tie rods up front. Rotate one side in, one side out, half a turn, full turn, something like that, and you can bring that steering wheel back straight. We always did that at the shop. Cars would come into the steering wheel on an angle. It drove me crazy. We'd always take care of that. So that's the fast way.
So, John, where do you measure this 1/16 of an inch or 30? Where do you actually measure that?
I don't know if Marty's got that number of that up or not.
Oh, I'll search it out. But
what I've done, I've got a piece of wood with 2 uprights, and a lag screw that comes through on both sides. And I put it up against the front of the wheel and bring the lag screws in on both sides of the car, and then take the whole thing out and put it up against the back. And the lag screws just brush the tire in the front and in the back. But in the front, you're just going for this little bit of a toe in. But I use that with a 2x4. I think I've got I call it the poor man.
So you're measuring the difference between the center on the back of the tire and the front of the tire.
Right. And I don't know if you can get to the center, but it's always the same place, but it's
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But near the center.
Yes, near the center. Yes.
But on the tire you're talking about.
On the highest part of the tire where it curves
Okay.
outwards, so that you sort of brush against it, and yeah, I don't use the rim. I use the tire itself.
So if it's brushing on the back when you go to the front, there should be a gap
of a 1/16 of an inch. Bingo.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
You're
Brad,
welcome.
I posted a playlist. I had all of the suspension alignment and steering videos in one spot. So you can check that in the link.
Thank you so
And
much.
you'll see the one where John is holding boards next to a car.
holding boards. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. So I am just a moment here. I'm doing my best here to I want to just a second here. How can I do this? Participants. No, invite. I'm going to go for participants. I can't get this. I want to use my mute all button, but I can't get back to it because I should take a class in Zoom. Even though I've done 117 Zooms, I should take a class and what's it? Anyway, David Hayes says, "Is George's problem commonly called bump steer?" No, bump steer is when the tire goes up, and then because it's going up, it turns out or in. It steers because of its vertical position. So that's not bump steer. Cornhead grease is sold by John Deere. Marty, we appreciate your PayPal donations. Indeed, we do. My issue is a bad left front shock and all as well. That's Brian, who maybe is talking about that same kind of rattling on the front end that George was complaining about. The horn slip ring and rotor can be purchased from the MGOC. Look at that. The MG Owners Club in Swavesey, Swavesey. It's about 12 miles north of Cambridge in England. I did 2 technical seminars there, one in 2017 and one in 2018. I got to go and show the British guys how to tune their own cars. I got paid to do it. It was a wonderful time. Anyway, and I what did I get from the MGOC last time? I ordered something from them for my daughter's car, and it says MG Owners Club. They're head to head with the MG Car Club out of England. MG Car Club is a volunteer organization. MG Owners Club is like Moss Motors with a club attached to it. So they have a huge variety of parts available. So, and MGA parts in this country are available from Cecilia at Scarborough Fair. Her number's up here. Gerald Dalton just got rack boots from British Parts Northwest. So I don't know where he's getting them. Tom Gunderson, how can you clean the rack if it's got grease in it? Good. So if your rack is filled with grease, someone's made the gross error of, because if you start to pump that TD rack full of grease, you can go through 2 tubes of grease before no more will go in. Oh my gosh. So you take the rack boots, you slip the rack boots away from the rack and pinion, slip them away, put a rag in there, put your fingers in there, wipe out as much grease as you can, turn it full left lock, wipe the grease off the rack, full right lock, wipe the grease off the rack, full left lock, wipe the grease off the rack, full right lock, wipe the grease off the rack until you're sick of wiping grease off the rack and figure it's good enough. So that's it. I mean, there's no other way to do it. I suppose if you want to be careful, you'd put a bag, some kind of trash bag around the one side of it, and then take a blowgun, and you might be able to blow the grease through there. But it's usually just wiping it, and then by the time you get as much out as you can, and you introduce 80/90, that grease combines with the 80/90 and makes that corn oil that Jim Pastor was talking about. It's just a little thicker stuff. So. Um, oh, here we go. Here's something different. Okay, when I let the clutch out, I hear a slight swish noise. Swish. Shh, shh. Wonderful, wonderful. Textbook case here, Tom Gunderson, and that is your slave hose is collapsed on the inside. Remember that you're supposed to change your brake hoses every 10 years because the inside diameter tightens up. It tightens up, and you can push the fluid through them, and the brakes will come on, but you take your foot off the brake, and the brake doesn't come off. And that usually shows up. You don't even notice it in the back end because they get hot, and you don't even
Yeah.
notice unless you smell it.
Well,
But
John, when I rebuilt the car after a fire I had, I changed all those hoses, the brake hoses and
yep,
the slave
well,
hose.
maybe there's a piece of dirt down in there then, but that's the swish. That's I mean I just that's the it's all that fluid getting pushed back from the slave through the hose and into the steel line. I just that's I said textbook case, but how old's the hose?
2 years.
Maybe it's a faulty hose, but my money's on the hose.
Let me ask you kind of another question.
Sure.
At a previous Zoom, maybe last year or something, people were talking about doing the brake lines and getting the air out and everything.
Yeah.
Since it all uses the same reservoir between the clutch and the brake.
Yep.
I was fiddling and I thought, well, why don't I go to the slave nipple and put a hose there and then go to the front passenger wheel and put that hose in that nipple, open those two nipples, and then just alternate the clutch and brake pedals just and till I look back at the reservoir to make sure I haven't lost any fluid, and then until it all kind of straightens out. Is that a way?
I've never
to
heard of
do
that
it?
before in my life. I suppose
It's all the same
it's all,
system.
yeah, but it's you got 3 feet of line, 4 feet of line there, and you're gonna have brake fluid all over the place, and you're gonna be pushing brake fluid back up the wrong way a lot more than is usual. I wouldn't combine that. It's the same reservoir, absolutely, but I wouldn't. I don't see any point in doing that.
Okay.
Interesting, interesting. I'll run that by some of my friends
Well,
and
it
see.
seems kind of simple, and it was not. I didn't have any problems with any leaking. The only thing I get left that may be loose is the little hose that goes from the slave to the front wheel, and that's just like a short foot and a half piece of hose.
Well,
It seemed to work because I was having a problem trying to
okay.
get my clutch working correctly.
Okay. All right. Well, there are a lot of reasons why the clutch doesn't work right or why you can't bleed it. There's a lot of reasons. One is that all the new slave cylinders have the bleeder in the wrong place. And so a lot of people leave it there and put the hose where the bleeder's supposed to be. Bleeder's supposed to be pointing straight down, not straight ahead, and or on an angle down. Anyway, when you go to bleed the clutch, when it's a fresh clutch, when you're just doing the hydraulics, I take I take the bleeder out, use my finger, and I'm underneath with my finger on the hole, on the bleeder hole, and I'm yelling up to the person sitting in the driver's seat who's operating the clutch, not the brake, the clutch. Finger off, pedal down, finger on, pedal up, and you count out 20 seconds. Long time. 1, 2, 3. I won't go all the way. Finger off, pedal down, finger on, pedal up, wait 20 seconds. After you do that 3 or 4 times, it gurgles, bunch of fluid spits out. At that point, you put the bleeder back in, and then bleed it correctly, which is open the bleeder, depress the pedal, close the bleeder, let up, wait a second or so, and do it again. And after 2 or 3 more strokes, all the air is out of the system, unless you've got a leak or unless the slave cylinder has been drilled incorrectly, which some of them were. And they came through the pipeline 10 years ago or so. But I think that swishing noise. So to find out if it's a swishing noise or not, get underneath the car so you can hear it, put something up against it, put your ear up against it, and have the hose, and have somebody operate the clutch.
Okay. What do you think about those little valve bleeders?
I know, I hate them. That's me. That's me. Other people, oh
Okay.
my God, I always use those. Those are just great.
Okay.
I'm a two-person bleeder.
I gotcha. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. John Lind, the 16th of an inch is the total for both wheels. Correct. It's not an eighth of an inch aggregate. That is true. Here's the MG Owners Club, along with their byline, the world's largest single mark car club. Just curious, does Marty but own an MG? The answer to Steve Illis's question is absolutely. But my Marty, Martie, does not. But I was in correspondence with Marty Boyson today. That was confusing when I was talking to the person about it. My partner who's looking for a car for her granddaughter. And I said, "Well, Marty," and she goes, "Marty." I said, sorry, wrong Marty. Anyway, no, not yet.
I don't have any room for it. We're juggling cars in the driveway. We have a single car garage and a single car driveway. So not right now.
Oh, I didn't even see Jim. Jim Pastor, you got your hand up. I'm sorry. I didn't. I was myopically staring at the.
No, it must be a mistake. I have no idea.
Oh, okay. All right.
I didn't. I'm
But I still
sorry.
like you.
I didn't realize I spelled Marty's name wrong.
But it provided some humor. So
Yeah,
that's,
well,
yeah,
my
that's cool.
apologies. I just assumed that's how you spelled it. But that's what happens when you assume. But I figured she had to have an MG to be as active in this group and to do everything that she does, which is really appreciated. I figured she had to have an MG.
That's very
I
kind.
knew nothing when I met John 4 years ago. So yeah.
Nothing about MGs.
Nothing about MGs. And I still can't tell you anything about all these parts he talks about. But my dad did have a little red convertible, but it was not British. So John doesn't like me to talk about it.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But Bob Kuhn, you've got your hand up. Is that intentional?
Yes.
Okay.
That same 57 MGA I just picked up, so it's been sitting 9 years, supposedly had an engine overhaul right before it got parked, had about 25 miles on it. But there's oil that's shown that streamed underneath the bottom of the oil pan quite a bit. So I question that. But I do have to start it. It's been sitting for 9 years. What do I do to get this car
Get oil pressure before you start it. Critical.
Okay.
So take the plugs out.
Yep.
Push the starter switch. Either sit inside and pull the switch, or have somebody watch the oil gauge and spin it, and it'll spin up to all of a sudden it'll go up to about 40 pounds, and then everything's oiled. Okay, then you can start it. And sometimes the points over that period of time, sometimes the points get corroded. You can clean those with a little piece of 600 paper, and that's straightforward. And then you got to have good gasoline to start it. Sometimes it's just easier to take the float bowl lids off, sop out whatever's in there, whatever yuck is in there, put fresh gasoline in there, and then it'll start right up, and it will continue to run with the bad gasoline that's in the tank. if you try to start it with a bad gasoline, it won't start because it won't vaporize correctly. But once the engine's running and hot, that old gasoline will work. So it's straightforward. Get oil pressure first. That is the critical item.
Yeah, I think the gas has evaporated out of the tank, so there's probably a sludge in there. Probably flushing the tank, aren't I?
Probably, and that's so you can introduce fresh, use high octane, introduce and I don't think it's probably evaporated. Well, anyway, um, use 93 octane, put 3-4 gallons in there. Take the fuel line off the carburetor, put it in a can or bottle, and make that fuel pump. Hit it if you have to, to get it working, and pump, tick, 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 tick. Pump out. I don't know, a quart of gasoline. If it looks good, pour it right back in the tank. But I would put fresh gasoline in the float bowls. Yeah. So
Okay, great. Thank you.
But on the MGA, there's a drain plug on the tank.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think it's an aftermarket Mexican tank from Moss. Maybe not. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But no, I
Okay.
thought of that. Yeah, thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Brad.
Right. Judd, you got your hand up.
I sure do, John. I'm going back to the very beginning of your of tonight's talk when you were talking about the technical people at Moss have all gone.
Yeah.
And you're one of the great sources, but I just want to encourage everybody to join their local club and be active. We have a constant interchange of emails in our group. We have a dedicated group email system that you have to be a member of the club to participate in. And every day somebody puts out something that says, how do I do X? Or what can I do about Y? And he'll get 4 or 5 responses. I mean, some of the people that are on here, I saw Bob Moore earlier. Uh, we, every club has got somebody in it that knows the answer to your problem, and or at least thinks they do. And but seriously, join the club. I think they're the resource we're going to have to rely on because there's no money in doing this stuff anymore. It's just a hobby.
It is just a hobby. It is just a hobby. Some people are real passionate. And that's really nice. And I appreciate everyone's support here. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's just heaven. So, yeah, Judd, thank you very much. And Tom, who's put in here, have you ever heard of pouring a pint of oil over the valve train and tappets? Sure, you can do that. But if you spin the engine over and get oil pressure, it's going to start. The oil's going to get there real fast, real fast. There's a lot of splash in there. But sure, I mean it wouldn't hurt at all. Take the valve; it just makes a mess. But it's sure pour it down, especially down the push rod tubes, so the lifters get coated.
Yeah, I just saw that in an old MG book, so I didn't know.
Okay. Hey, there's so many ideas, and then Judd's comment about being on a tight bulletin board with people that is really nice.
Yeah.
That's really nice because if you go on the MG Experience and you post any question, you'll get 7 engineers and they all disagree with each other. So it's sometimes difficult to separate the wheat from the chaff on the big boards. So